Hey guys, I've spent a lot of time making these videos and it's taken a long time, but we're finally here. It's finals time in Brisbane and we're ready to crown the champion of the Battle Styles format. We've got two familiar faces in the matchup, Aiden and Nick, who faced off on stream in round 2. Nick got the better of Aiden with his ADP deck in the Swiss rounds, but will Aiden's VictoryFu deck live up to its name and overcome the powers of space and time and a dog with a sword? Just like in top 4, our competitors are given a copy of their opponent's deck list, but there is an added twist here in the finals. They will be playing a best of 5 match. Let's see how the players' decks stack up in this long finals. This is now the 4th time this deck built by Aiden and round 1 competitor Zac has appeared on stream. While it didn't see much success in earlier rounds, it has carried Aiden all the way to the finals, and with the power of 2 of the most threatening VMAX cards out of Battle Styles, there's a chance we'll see the deck winning overall. I'll explain briefly that Welder is an incredibly powerful supporter in a fire deck, and paired with the bench reach of Urshifu, this deck can create massive swing turns where it takes multiple knockouts. Nick's deck also needs very little introduction at this point. It's ADP with Zacian, the highly feared and highly respected deck. We've seen Altered Creation in action a few times now, and the plan stays the same in this matchup. Go for AC early and then go rat hunting with your boss's orders to take games easily. This matchup seems like it'll go to the player who hits everything they need and moves the fastest. Nick's Mew, however, could play an interesting role here. By blocking bench damage, this one Pokemon could take Urshifu VMAX out of the game entirely. This would force Aiden to rely on his fire Pokemon to take the knockouts he needs. I've talked enough, let's hear me talk some more. It all comes down to this, guys. This is the finals match of the Brisbane TCG champions for the Battle Styles format. This one's for the trophy and the booster box. So we've got Aiden on the left on his Yu-Gi-Oh playmat, and Nick is on the right with the Pokemon Regionals playmat. The observant viewers of this channel will notice that Nick has changed mats. He was playing on a Bulbasaur, Charmander and Squirtle mat to start with, and I think for some reason he's changed that up for the finals. I guess we'll see if this brings in good luck or not. Let's get the dice roll going, so they know who's going first yet. You and I, though, we don't know yet. This is game 1 of a best of 5 series. And Nick there popping open the deck list of Aiden. Much like Cookie in the round before him, it will do him some good to see what techs Aiden is running in this strange list of his. These players did face off earlier though, so I imagine each player has a good idea of what their opponent's bringing to the table. Nick's getting his starting hand going. It's not bad, he's got the ADP and some energy, but I fear it might be a bit bricky if he can't find a supporter or a way to dene. Aiden very generously is offering him a mulligan. No basics in his opening hand, so he will shuffle up and Nick will get to draw an extra card to start the game. Still don't know if he's going first or not, but that extra card off the mulligan and the draw for turn might be what Nick needs to get out of this hand, which isn't great at the moment, but if he gets a Professor's Research, it would probably be a phenomenal hand, as he'd get the water energy on the ADP and get to work getting those medals into the discard pile so that he can saucer them onto Zacian later on. There we are, Aiden finds a basic and we're underway. Aiden starts with Teeny V. Looks like Aiden's going first. Nick takes his mulligan. I think we're just waiting on the... And there it is. Yep, so Aiden draws a turn. And it's not too easy to see. We do see the giant hearth there. We see the Urshifu V. Pops the Marshadow onto the bench. Wants to counter anything like a Chaotic Swell from Nick. Aiden obviously knows that Nick is playing the chaotic swell. We see the swell in Nick's hand, but that Marshadow will let him bump it in a later turn and get right on with playing Giant Hearth without losing a turn to having it removed by the chaotic swell stadium. And of course, once Marshadow uses its resetting hole ability, it disappears, so there's no real danger of it getting knocked out in a later turn, especially as Nick might need a turn or two to get Altered Creation set up. So not too much of a first turn for Aiden. He gets some Pokemon on board and attaches to VictoryFu. Certainly seen worse turns, but it'll do for now, especially as it has a supporter for next turn. Back onto Nick now, we see a Crushing Hammer miss. And there's the Chaotic Swell. And there's the boss. So Nick didn't draw his way out of trouble here, but he has bossed up the Marshadow, meaning it can't use its resetting hole ability, as you can only use that when it's on the bench. However, Aiden just needs to find a switching card here, and there it is, it's in hand. He's right back on track. So he immediately pops the resetting hole ability, getting rid of that Chaotic Swell. Marshadow bounces out of play, so it's no longer a boss target. And Aiden has Victini VMAX in play already. That max victory, if he chooses to go for it this turn, would do 100 damage, which is not nothing. It would be certainly setting up that ADP for a knockout next turn. I think that's what Aiden is thinking too. He evolves the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX and deals 100 damage to the ADP. And this is looking awful for Nick here. He can go for the Altered Creation, but it's looking terrible, and he's in donk range if Aiden can just find a welder. The double blaze from that Reshizard will do 200 damage, and game 1 will be over very quickly. So we see the welder. Do we see the third energy? Yes, we see that third energy in hand, so game 1 was a quick one. Aiden retreats the Victini VMAX into the Reshizard, announces double blaze. Nick agrees with that, and we're going to a game 2 very quickly. So the players are playing in a best of 5 series, but if all the games go this quickly, it'll be faster if they just played a sort of a normal paced best of 3. So right now Aiden's up 1-0, but Nick doesn't need to panic just yet, as of course he still has 2 more strikes here, I guess you could say. 2 more opportunities to not lose. It's very interesting. I've been playing Pokemon for some time, and I was very intrigued when I heard that the finals would be a best of 5. I know that I've played a lot of tournaments in my day, and at the end of the day, after you've been playing for many hours, a best of 5 is, I imagine that's a real test of mental endurance, as you have to, play a few more games, and oftentimes best of 3s can go as long as 40-50 minutes, so a best of 5, if it went the distance, all 5 games, you'd be looking at probably hour and a half of games. It'd be a lot to ask if you were taking, if you'd been playing all day, so it'd be interesting to see which of these players can come out on top after a really long final series. But if game 1's any indication of what this is going to be like, it might not be that long at all. I'm sure Nick doesn't plan on getting donked twice more, however, so I'm sure we'll have some more ordinary games for games 2, 3, and 4 and 5 if necessary. So players flip up the cards. I believe Nick will be going first. He starts that Zacian. He has some decent cards in hand to work with. He has the Dedenne this time, so no risk of him getting donked. He has the Rusted Sword. He may choose to not play that, as the math that card helps you reach isn't particularly meaningful in this matchup. Rusted Sword's great if you're hitting into opposing ADPs, as after Altered Creation that lets you hit 290, but it's in a bit of a no man's land when it comes to VMAXs. 290 is just not a knockout on any VMAX, so he equips it anyway. You never really know. There's some instance where that might be helpful damage to have. Nick Dedenne's away a pretty big hand here. Throws away a Metal Saucer. You don't like to see that if you are the ADP player, especially as he had a Metal Energy in hand. No, it looks like he's thrown away 2 Saucer. That's especially painful. Especially as he is down a game. You do see one of those Metal Energy come into hand. And we'll see an Intrepid Sword. So no Metal Energy hit off the Intrepid Sword and no ADP in play. Another very slow turn for Nick here. Action on Aiden, and he wastes no time getting that Fire Energy onto the Volcanion. But his hand appears to be dead as he's going for the Flare Starter onto himself. So it might now be Nick's turn to get a donk here, as Nick would need a lot of cards, but I believe a Metal Saucer and 2 switching options gets the job done here. It'd be a lot to ask though, as 2 Metal Saucer and a switch are already in the discard pile. Nick might favour taking a less resource intensive but more a route less likely to win him the game right here and now. If he invests in the ADP and just goes for the Altered Creation and doesn't go all in on this Brave Blade play, he sets himself up pretty good for another turn. Aiden reveals the hand there, plain view of the whole world, and it is awful.
It's really pretty.
Now, I don't really like that from Aiden. I don't know if Nick caught a glimpse of that hand, but that really might inform Nick's decisions here. He might now realize that he has more turns than he thought he had to work with here. So he's much more comfortable going with the slower Altered Creation setup. See Water Energy come down on the ADP, so it looks like that's what Nick's trying to do here. He's just trying to play kind of a longer game here, even though he theoretically could have won. And of course, if Aiden doesn't top deck his way out of this, it'll be game over anyway. I think that's a VictoryFu V in hand, so Nick might be safe for another turn, but help really isn't on the way unless he gets something like a Dedenne or a Draw Supporter in hand. So there's the High Heat Blast, just doing that minimal 50 damage to the ADP here. And a killer Crushing Hammer from Nick here. Wipes off the energy off Aiden's only other attacker on the board. After this turn, Aiden's only Pokemon in play will be a Rapid Strike VictoryFu V with no energy on it and no ability to get off a powerful attack like a Gale Thrust or a G-Max Rapid Flow. And once again, Aiden will be in top deck mode, and we could very quickly be heading to a game 3 here. Nick's looking a little deeper in his deck. He's got the Mew now, it looks like. So he's further insulating himself from that Rapid Strike VictoryFu VMAX, which is still at least 2 turns from attacking. And he's got the Chaotic Swell, and he's got 2 Crushing Hammer in hand, so Nick has a response to just about anything Aiden could bring here. Aiden realizes this and he concedes. Yeah, pretty awful hand. Those prizes weren't favorable, so just like that, we're in game 3. Basically reset, and we're just in the it's still now a best of 3, as both players have taken a game in very short amount of time here. Yeah, we're only 14 minutes in and each player has taken a game, so it could be done very quickly here. These players could be getting their prizes and heading home quite soon. We've had Aiden take a game by a donk, and we've had Nick effectively do the same thing here in game 2. As we saw with Aiden's hand and the way he was drawing, it seems likely that he would have had no Pokemon on his bench the turn after Nick's next turn. So I wonder if we'll get a kind of a long game where we get to see the strengths of both decks on display here. We have seen a strong welder turn from Aiden, and we have seen a altered creation into a strong attack from Nick, but we haven't seen the decks really interact. It's one deck just seriously bludgeoning the other. These decks, as fast as they are, there's kind of a limit to how much they can interact. It's a lot of the gameplay is on the players to get the cards they need and get those engines going. So the players are setting up for game 3. So we'll be going to at least a game 4 here. Players flip the cards over. We've got a Victini start from Aiden, and from Nick he's got the Zacian V. And that's a bit better from Aiden. We've got the Dedenne in hand. We just saw his hand flash there for a second. 2 Victinis in play and the Rapid Strikers V. And Nick as well, he's got the 2 Zacian Vs in play. He's had the Marnie, however, which isn't ideal on your first turn, but aside from that, I don't think we're going to see a donk, at least. Got the Dene in hand for Nick here. He has some nice cards. I don't know how badly he wants to throw them away. He's putting the 3rd Zacian V in play. These Zacian Vs are incredibly strong, but that fire weakness could really come into play. It offers Aiden the opportunity to attack with Volcanion. Volcanion's High Heat Blast we saw in game 2 do 50 damage to an ADP, but with the extra energy on board it could be doing as much as 110. And of course with the fire weakness of Zacian, that is a knockout unless Nick chooses to put big charms on those Pokemon. Also, we don't see a ADP yet in play, so next still might be another turn from getting that altered creation going, and another turn after that from beginning to attack. If Aiden can find something like a Victini VMAX this turn, he can start taking knockouts and really put Nick on the clock here. See that giant hearth going through the deck. A welder onto a Victini V, even that would get the job done, as that energy burst attack would do 30 damage for each energy attached to both Pokemon, but again with that fire weakness, that's something we've seen a lot today with the It's a lot we'd seen a lot of that earlier in the semi-final match, where that VictoryFu was just able to power through that Luke metal deck. Aiden's hand's a little bit stuck though, so he can do a respectable 120 damage. And that will set up the Zacian V, especially if Aiden can get that VictoryFu VMAX set up. That would Zacian V's in range of a G-Max Rapid Flow, so if Nick can't get that Mew into play, the Zacian V's vulnerable. We see more LGX come down from Nick, taking a good look at Aiden's hand here. The Reshizard GX is forced onto the bench. Not sure if Aiden minds too much, however, as that's certainly a good attacker in this matchup. Nick throwing away 2 boss's orders with this Professor's Research here, but he has to make something happen. He really needs to get a move on with this ADP plan he's got going here. I believe he has a quick ball in hand, so if he wants he can have it. Considering throwing away another boss's orders here. Nick thinking it over, decides simply to throw away the quick ball. I think that makes sense. He's already got most of the Pokemon he needs in play already. He really just needs the ADP, and if if the board space permits, he'll eventually like to put a Mew into play. However, he needs that bench space open for something like a Crobat or a Dedenne if he's not drawing so well. He seems to be drawing fine, however. So I imagine we'll see the Water Energy come down onto the ADP. And we've got the Switch. And I think we see the Dedenne in hand. So there goes Dedenne, throwing away a 3rd boss this turn. Nick really wants to hit that Energy Switch after all that. 6 cards, no Energy Switch, unfortunate. Chaotic Swell comes into play, bumping the Giant Hearth, but looks like Nick will be behind yet another turn here, as he'll be going for a Metal Saucer, but it's looking less and less likely that the Altered Creation will be getting good value here. Chooses to end his turn with an Intrepid Sword, finds a Metal Energy, can get the other Zacian V set up. Chooses not to attach, however. We do see that Power Pad, so that Power Pad can shuffle back in the boss's orders that he was kind of forced to throw away there. So he at least has a way to get those back. Aiden's turn now. He's starting to get that Reshizard set up. Bumps the Chaotic Swell with the Giant Hearth. And just going for Professor's Research here. Just wants to dig through his deck and see what he can find. He wouldn't be doing too much damage to the ADP as it is, but I mean, we saw the 100 damage work out for him very well in Game 1, as that set up the double blaze, and Reshizard's on the bench. It's certainly a thing he could be teeing up here, especially if he can get a Giant Hearth into play and find that welder. The 2-shot is certainly something that is available to him.
true. I would have shouted back.
So it's Nick's turn now. Nick's got a couple of damaged Pokemon in play now. So while we do see that Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX have no energy on it just yet, it's still waiting there, and Nick not having a bench space means he can't protect his bench Pokemon with Mew. So there is a line of play where in a later turn Aiden goes for a boss's orders on the Dedenne GX and the Rapid Flow. We'll be able to take 4 prizes. Now if Aiden takes the knockout on the ADP first, this would offer Nick the bench space to put the Mew into play. Strange cutting going on here. I think, yeah, so Nick's played the Marnie. Nick at least gets to go for the Altered Creation this turn. Finally he can start to get the ball rolling with those attacks. Aiden's already done a fair bit of damage to his board, however, so he'll need to have a pretty urgent response in the next few turns. And there's the boss's orders. And wow, very quick turn from Aiden. Simply announces boss, max victory, take 2 prizes. Still no energy on the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, however. I would like to see that come into play in this matchup. I would like to see it get the shine and not just hang out on the bench. However, Nick is eyeing up that Mew. Sees it on the bottom of his deck, and should he be able to find something like a quick ball, I imagine he will try to get that on the bench.
It's just easy to answer. Then last night I'll tell you about BDP.
Nothing in play on Aiden's side of the field is all that vulnerable at the moment. An Altered Creation doesn't score a knockout on anything on Aiden's side of the field.
So then I lost the turn anyway.
A Brave Blade would have taken care of the VictoryFu, but in this instance Aiden's chosen to target down that setup Zacian, and Nick doesn't really have a whole lot going on. He'll most likely concede some more prizes next turn.
Did you not? Was that last turn? It was last turn.
Briefly saw Aiden's hand there. It looked okay. I think he had something like Welder and I think Crobat maybe.
That's what happened. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's all good. Oh no, it's just like, check the video replay.
Nick going for the Professor's research here.
No, we don't know. We just need a replay.
Finds a Crushing Hammer. I don't know how much value that has.
Yeah, that's fair.
It is a heads, but
Can't be all fails.
They can.
remember that
Where is that?
Aiden's energy is just so easy to get on the board with cards like Welder. And by taking the energy off the VictoryFu VMAX, Aiden still has the option to attach and play boss's orders. So we see the Ultimate Ray come down. It's the first damage that Nick has gotten on board in this matchup, in this game 3 here. Action on Aiden now. His hand's looking pretty big. He has the Fire Energy in hand. He has the Rapid Strike Energy to begin setting up that Urshifu VMAX. Still no, so we've got the Mew in Nick's hand, but not sure how badly he wants to play that, as the Urshifu doesn't pose a threat quite just yet. Yeah, and we see a boss's orders come down. This one targets down the other set up, Zacian V,
And max victory for knockout.
and he goes for max victory. And like that, Aiden is down to 2 prizes in this game 3. He's had to play 2 boss to take these 4 prizes so far, but if he can find another one, he might be able to take down the Dene here. Or the Rapid Strike Energy could finish the job on a Dene as well. All of that is contingent on him drawing boss, however. A Welder would also do the trick if ADP were forced to attack this turn, which is looking likely, as Nick doesn't really have the option to retreat into Zacian V here to attack, and it doesn't make a great deal of difference what he attacks with. A double blaze for 200 would end the game on any of the targets on Nick's board here. Nick's going over his options. These players haven't taken too much time yet to play, or to complete 2 games so far out of a match. I do like that we've seen a game 3 go a little longer than the first 2. So we do see that Ultimate Ray take a 4 prize knockout on the Victini VMAX. Interesting promotion from Aiden.
This one has no aggro.
I think that tells me that he doesn't have game just yet, but he does have Welder in hand, but no fire energy by the looks of it. He has a Crobat that he can't really play because his hand seems to be at least 8 cards. So we see the evolution into Victini VMAX. And the Rapid Strike Energy comes down onto Urshifu, so we might see that Gmax Rapid Flow come into play just yet. Oh, we see the switch. He's going for a Gale Thrust by the look of things. I think he's going to thin his hand down and go for the Crobat, and if he gets boss, he just wins, and if not, he still gets to put some damage on the board.
You lost the sword, you played 1 sword.
So I think this might force a Mew out of Nick to protect his Pokemon and force Aiden to have that boss.
Right. Yeah, there it is. It's in the Pokemon area.
Aiden's really thinking it over.
Or I could just not, and then I can't lose next turn.
I think you're quite comfortable just going for the
You feel?
Gale Thrust here, but
So I think I just Gale.
doesn't leave you with a whole lot to do next turn if
So you're on 250.
the ADP just sort of gets out of the way. Nick placing the 30 on the ADP to indicate it has 30 HP left, so a Gale Thrust, even if the Urshifu doesn't move, will knock it out this turn. However, that will no longer be a factor. The Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX is put on the bench in exchange for the Victini VMAX that Nick has bossed up. So I don't mind this play either. I think it forces Aiden to either have to boss or welder in order to get the attack off this turn.
That's terrible.
Double Metal Saucer from Nick coming down onto the Mawile. Big Charm on the Mawile. So he needs to attack with something this turn, but a Wily Bite, sort of not great,
Alrighty.
especially if Aiden manages to find 2 energy in Welder, as a max victory will still knock it out, even though it is not a
Tagging 7.
GX Pokemon. 170 hit points plus the 30 from Big Charm brings it up to 200, but Max Victory and Weakness still deals with that.
Not that you are, that it is. Capable
Nick
of
finally commits the Mew to the bench, so he can at least avoid a G-Max Rapid Flow to end the game.
10 plus 30 times.
Kind of forces Aiden here to have the Welder and 2 energy.
But, you know, what else?
Aiden's got the Welders in hand. It's not a question of that. It's managing to find 2 fire energy. He hasn't consumed too much this turn. There's 1 fire energy.
Just let me, like...
He can weld that on and hope to find the other, and if he does, that's game 3 taken.
Now this or this can kill this, which means he can retreat it.
He has the Dene in hand as well. I really like Aiden's odds of closing out game 3 here this turn. Just taking a look at his discard pile, taking a quick inventory of the fire energy he's used so far. Looks to be about 5. With 1 in play and 1 in hand, it seems like he'll have no more than 2 left in deck, so just considering what the appropriate line of play is here. I think you absolutely have to Welder right here. I don't particularly agree with attaching here.
What? Huh?
So, go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because by doing that, you lose the ability to
So if you didn't have this, I just won. Which is very
just manually attach later. So even if he finds an energy off the Crobat into a Dedenne, he won't be able to attach it as he's already used that for turn, and he would have to discard 2 Welders in order to dig deeper in his deck. You see an Eldegoss though, so I think he might be lining up for a boss here.
That's my great. Energy. Huh?
I'm not completely clear on
Well, that's an option, isn't it?
what this line of play is going to finish up on. I'm not sure what he's Eldegossing for.
That's an out. He's gonna ask me at the end of the game why you didn't do that, but yeah. Why didn't you just weld it to it? Yeah. So I'm an idiot? Yeah.
I think Aiden's realizing something, perhaps that he might have gone about this a bit differently.
Energy, good. I have the welders.
He's got the 2 Welders in hand, he's got the Eldegoss in hand, he's got all the Welders he could ever need, but he doesn't have the fire energy to attach them because he's just manually attached it to the Victini VMAX this turn.
Okay. So now I can either draw boss switch or energy welder off the data. Or I can boss,
Looking at his hand,
grab a boss, and then I just have to draw switch. There's only one of
Giving
each
it a
of
real
the
think
spells in
over.
deck, and 1 switch in deck.
Players still have quite some time here.
Go
Aiden
for the boss one.
pops the
Maybe
Eldegoss
we
onto the
boss
bench.
knock, I guess.
He has boss, but
Boss the Dedenne.
can't retrieve that Victini VMAX, so he's digging for a switch here. A switch would still get him the game, but he misses that too, so looks like it'll be a Spreading Flames to end this turn.
Yeah, switch.
And he just needs to hope that Nick doesn't find what he needs here, but
Don't, right? So I'm gonna wait a little.
I mean, an energy switch to the Dedenne and then a retreat into an attacker. Nick reveals the energy switch here.
And then I lose.
Aiden's looking over his hand just to make sure there's nothing he can do about it.
This is energy or switch.
Yeah, there was a switch a little deeper in the deck, but
That's fine. That means it didn't matter. That means it didn't matter.
unfortunate. So we're going to a game 4.
Draw another energy if I play the welder. But I didn't.
Something I've never seen said or heard or said myself before. We're going to a game 4 in the Pokemon trading card game. Pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I had to
So an interesting one here. I'm a bit bummed the first two games weren't a bit more like this one, but then I'd have to be talking for 2 hours, and I don't know if I can do that. We're already about 40 minutes in, so the first 3 games have taken about as long as you would expect a 3-game series to take. But we've got 2 more. Nick is up 2-1 in the series. So Aiden will have to win back-to-back to win here, while Nick is 1 game away from being the Brisbane champion.
Do you know how much I've had to think playing this today? Like, I have not. My only two
Players are shuffling up now.
playing green side. Do you know how much thinking is in the green side? That's a lot.
We've seen both these decks in action. We've seen what they can do, what they're capable of.
Like when I'm throwing my habits, I'm keeping my habits. When I'm mining, when I'm throwing a boss, because I know I can hold habits, I can later just stall for a turn. Like, holy
We
crap.
saw Aiden's deck just falter a little bit there at the end of the game.
Every single
Wasn't able to dig his way out of trouble. That is what these matches can come down to sometimes, these very fast decks. Sometimes you just miss a crucial piece, and from there, you lose a crucial game in the match. Sometimes it's a switch, sometimes it's a metal saucer.
To the Victoria boss.
For both players, it's just been having enough Pokemon on the bench in games 1 and 2.
He's thrown 3 switches.
That's why I'm like down here. I'm just like,
Like one switch.
the more stress you give me, the more chance I'm buying that fucking throwback box.
So, judging by what we've seen so far, I think Aiden will be going first here in game 4.
Like, you get 3 packs, $30, a pin, a coin, and the promo card. You probably sell the promo card.
Both players seem to value
And then 3.
going first here.
It's not the shittest.
Aiden because he wants to evolve his Victinis, and
I think Dragon Ball.
Nick because he wants to,
Next set, yeah.
well, because it's nice to have the Intrepid Sword, and also you drastically increase your chances of getting the Altered Creation.
It's like nowhere for them to hide.
Nick doesn't have a great starter here. He's forced to start that Crobat V.
I'm leading in Crobat.
Oh, sick.
Meanwhile, Aiden's getting some pretty ideal starters in this matchup.
That's not the worst.
Go ahead.
The first 4 games of this. Oh, did I just see an attached pass? Are we about to see a repeat of game 2? That's very unfortunate. Meanwhile, Nick drops down several cards from his hand. He is ready to get going. The Energy Spinner, the Cherish Ball, and the Quick Ball are about to get him well and truly set up here. Could appear that game 3 was the exception, the one game to go long if Aiden can't get much more out of the start. It was Aiden's first turn, however. He might have a welder and some energy that we didn't really see. I didn't get a good look at his hand. So Nick's getting the deck good and shuffled up. He'll have water energy for his ADP.
At this point,
He'll have a detonator dig into the deck.
You know, the quick flip kind of like seating, right? Yeah, you can just see.
He has to throw away a metal saucer, but I don't think he minds too much. This is a pretty decent start if you forget about the Crobat and the active.
14, 17, 20 games today. To go
There's 2 Crushing Hammer and a Zacian V.
from victory.
2 Zacian V actually. 2 pair.
Fucking tails.
Nick trusting that coin, and his trust is well placed as we see a heads here take the only energy off Aiden's board. He doesn't even need to use that other hammer.
I think so.
So we see a Marnie here. This could potentially bring Aiden back into it. Oh. I don't like that hand. That was an effective Marnie from Nick here. We see a Metal Saucer, we see a Big Charm on the ADP. Hand's a little bit dead aside from that. He will need the Intrepid Sword to get him kind of out of trouble here. Thinking about the second Metal Saucer, but chooses not to for now. He can play that at any time, and he gets a hit off the Intrepid Sword, but once again chooses not to use it. Oh, we find the Welder. Aiden finds the Welder. So Aiden's going to take 2 prizes this turn. From what looked like a pretty devastating Marnie, we now have a V knockout about to take place with the Giant Hearth.
I was about to say, holy shit.
See Pokemon Communication putting, I believe, Marshadow back into the deck. Aiden has no need for that Marshadow right now, so he can probably find a Dedenne here and start digging.
Every single game of this thing is different as well, which is cool.
Aiden just perusing.
Very much so.
Anything but.
I think we'll see a Dedenne here, if not a Crobat. He moves the Crobat to the top, so I think we're just going to see a Night Asset this turn. It would be for 5 cards, so a pretty good one. He would only need to find Fire Energy or something he would be happy to discard to the Giant Hearth.
Yeah, up yours, Aiden.
Do I have to do it right now?
Thinking it over, of course. He's played a supporter for turn, so there's no option to boss up the Zacian V and get a sneaky knockout on that early. We see the Heatran GX on Aiden's bench. We haven't seen that in the first 3 games of this set, but that could come in handy if Aiden gets some really good turns ahead, getting energy on board. It would need 7 energy to knock out the ADP, but it's happy to just wait there in the wings until such a time as it can get great value. The rest of Aiden's fire Pokemon are probably just as good at, getting damage for energy value. Like a 350 damage for 7 energy is pretty good, but Charizard's 200 for 3 is excellent value too, if he simply wants to 2-shot this ADP. But the Heatran's there, Steaming Stomp's good.
Please leave. Every time you're here, my game goes.
Burning Road's a great ability.
For that brief moment, everything's going.
It's a good option to have in your back pocket.
Okay. It was brief, but it was there.
So Nick is going to get the Altered Creation, and it's probably a good time for that, being 2 prizes down. He has Quick Ball in hand, so I think he's going to look for a continuation card here, find himself some more cards. I believe I see a Dedenne in the deck. I think his other options include Mawile and Zacian. I don't think the Dedenne was in the deck, so looks like Nick's just going for the Zacian V here. But that's okay. The Ultimate Ray he's probably about to use in the coming turn can get that set up. Not this turn, however. He still needs to get the AC online. Turn on the AC.
What else are you doing? If you ultimate Ray this turn after shuffling this much,
big charm comes down on the Zacian.
Well, ultimate right?
It's not terribly valuable on the Fire Week Zacian V, but it has to go somewhere, and you've already got one big charm onto your ADP, so...
Why are you choosing not to? That's what I'm confused about.
Are we seeing the Ultimate Ray before the AC? I don't hate that. Because it gets 150 damage onto the Victini, and it sets up an attacker, so... If everything goes badly and Nick were to somehow lose the ADP, he'd be in an awful spot, but at least by setting up these attackers, if he is somehow deprived of Altered Creation this game, he still has backup attackers and still has some kind of game plan here. Remember that after Altered Creation, Nick only has to take 2 knockouts. There's really not a lot of work he has to do here, but Aiden's right on top of that, just covering that Zacian immediately with the boss's orders play. Max Victory takes a knockout, and Nick simply goes for the Altered Creation here. These are some lightning fast turns from the players. Aiden needs only to find a boss, and this is game over already. There's the Elder V, so that'll take the boss, and wow. I think Aiden went from 6 prizes to none in the space of about 2 minutes there. That was a fast game 4. That was the type of game I was talking about. That was about as fast as the games where the players got donked. It just goes to show you how much it means to be a fast deck in the Pokemon TCG. You can just rip these other decks down. You can just prey on these support Pokemon, and you can win games very quickly. I think from Max Victory 2 to Max Victory 3, that was probably under a minute. So you know what that means, guys. We are headed to a Game 5. We are headed to a deciding game here. We're only about 50 minutes in too, so these players have been very considerate of me not having to talk over them for too long, so thank you to Aiden and Nick for playing these fast decks and giving me a real tennis match to commentate over here. There's been no lull in the action too. It's been all go from both players for the whole nearly hour we've been looking at this game so far. It's very nice to not have to fill very much airtime with just banter. I'm not great at it yet, but I guess we'll see once I get a few more tournaments up my belt. Speaking of tournaments, I know this one was from a little while ago, but there may be a new one in Brisbane in a couple of months. Possibly after rotation, possibly after the release of Chilling Rain and Evolving Skies, but yeah, if everything goes well, might come back bigger and better for the second Brisbane TCG Championship. There's the fist bump from the players. We're ready for it. It is winner take all here in Game 5. Aiden has a starter. Nick also has starters. He has 2 very good starters. He has the ADP and the Zacian. That's the name of the deck. Nick goes first, as you would expect, given how these players have taken their opportunity to choose. Quick turn here from Nick, attaches to the active, plays it well, and goes for the Intrepid Sword. As far as turns where you make 3 actions goes, not a bad one. Nick also has supporters in hand, so he's not in a bad way either, even though that was a brief turn 1. Action on Aiden now. He has started the Rapid Strike VictoryFu V. He's well into it, which don't know how much I love that, but he has the Rapid Strike energy in hand, so he can get a cheeky 150 damage off this turn. That would set up a 2-shot on the ADP very quickly here, assuming there are no hammer shenanigans. Quick balls away the Eldergoss. Assume he's after something like a Marshadow perhaps. Just wants to get that swell out of the way so he can start getting good value out of his giant hearths here. Taking a look through, I still think he's going for the Marshadow. He has Dedenne in hand, so we can start going for a walk through his deck here, just to see what he sees. There's the giant hearth. So, looks like very immediately we're going to see some things happening, some things going down in this VictoryFu deck, as Aiden has told me to call it. So just shuffling up. I think I would like to see this Rapid Strike energy committed to the VictoryFu. At 150 damage, sets up a 1-shot. And we see Aiden do exactly that. Doesn't go for the Dedenne, just immediately goes for the 100 blows impact. There's 150 damage. Next turn now, he's got the AC online here. AC is plugged in and ready to go, but the ultimate raise will not be coming down from the ADP, as well, unless Nick gets very fortunate with the hammers here. But aside from that, I think this ADP is going to do its job and then leave. So you do see a hammer though. That's the only thing that could really disrupt Aiden's plans to just rush this ADP and get it out of play, taking half of his prizes very quickly. There's the Morwile. That Morwile is going to hit pay dirt if Nick decides against it. If he does find that Morwile, Aiden didn't play down that Dedenne. It's always a dangerous thing to do playing against a deck with Morwile. If you leave your support Pokemon in hand, that Morwile can just drag them onto the bench and you get no value out of them, and in some cases you can be left with a pretty dead hand. Tails on that Crushing Hammer. So it looks like the 100 Blows Express is going to be arriving on time here. Nick just doing a shuffle, just shuffling up here. I think we know how this turn ends with an Altered Creation GX. Nick didn't do a bad job getting the Zacian V set up, however. The Brave Blade will be getting some value even after the ADP gets knocked out here. This might even force Aiden to kind of get the Rapid Strike VictoryFu VMAX just to avoid a knockout, and in turn that would force him to switch it out and into play so the Gale Thrust gets value. 100 Blows Impact, you don't need to move VictoryFu V out of the active, but Rapid Strike VictoryFu VMAX, however, can't do 150 damage just sitting there. It has to move in and out of the active, so I guess we'll see how that plays out next turn, but otherwise both players are going to be making a quick trade of 3 prizes each. Nick's hand looks alright, but Aiden's just made an overwhelming stand early with the 100 blows impact. So we see the GX marker flipped. Evolution into the Victini. There's that Dedenne. Nick probably regretting a little bit not going for that more while. Of course, he still needed to hit cards. And in doing so, he got that Zacian V ready to go. So it's not the end of the world that this ADP is to go down this turn. We see a Fire Energy discarded for a Giant Hearth.
Actually, I'm gonna look before I do anything else.
Aiden just taking a scan of his deck. Don't think he particularly wants any Fire Energy at this point. He doesn't have a welder to play them. And he's probably all too happy to just attach one to the Victini for now. Oh, and there's also the Crobat in hand that I forgot about. Oh, interesting play here. So I think Aiden is... Yeah, so Aiden's going to hit the Rapid Strike VMAX here. He hits the Communication, shuffles the Victini VMAX here. So not only will Gale Thrust be getting a knockout onto this ADP, it will also be out of knockout range from Nick's side, so that Zacian V won't even get to take a revenge knockout onto it.
I already had it.
Yeah.
That's why I've done this. I haven't supported. I didn't boss.
So Aiden's digging even further, going for the Professor's Research. We're only on turn 2 and already he's made significant progress just eating through that deck. And there it is, the Gale Thrust is announced and Aiden draws first blood in this game 5. Taking a knockout on the dreaded ADP. Aiden now just 3 prize cards away from the title of Brisbane champion. There's a Metal Saucer coming down onto the Zacian V, so that will be ready to go. There's a switch in hand. So there's the Mawile. Huge hand here. Nick hits the Dedenne. More than happy to just put that into play. Locks up Aiden's bench here and prevents him from getting value out of it. What Nick doesn't have, however, is the boss's orders to sort of keep pace here with Aiden. A boss would let him knock out something like a Dedenne or that Crobat and let him take 3 prizes, but he's going to have to resort to doing 260 with the 290 now with the Rusted Sword. So 290 damage onto the Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX. Not going to knock it out, and Aiden will be able to get even more value out of that Urshifu VMAX next turn. Might even be able to go for a G-Max Rapid Flow and set up that ADP on the bench. Aiden's hand is looking pretty good. By that I mean he has a Welder in it and a Giant Hearth in play. So he's going to take 2 Fire Energy here. I think we'll see these come down onto the Reshizard here with the Welder. So there's the Welder. We see 1 energy on the Victini. He's considering the second, but okay. I don't hate that. That seems okay for something like a retreat on a later turn if he needs it. Don't know how much retreating Aiden plans on doing in this matchup though.
Not hard retreat and attack.
Well, I guess I'm wrong. He's retreating right now into the Victini VMAX. He's
Hard retreat attack.
rather than go for the Gmax rapid flow and leave that vulnerable VictoryFu VMAX in the active, he's decided to just
So I feel
put himself down to one prize card and
100% safe.
perhaps give himself an extra turn to look for that boss's orders. And there we see it. Aiden reveals the boss's orders in hand. He has game guaranteed next turn.
We have the boss.
And there we have it. It took 5 games and about an hour, but
Guess what? There's a third game.
your Brisbane PTCG champion for the Battle Styles format in 2021 is Aiden.
Yeah, well, I didn't know about the second one until just now.
So that was a close one.
Hold up.
We had some very good games. We had some not so good games, but there it is, guys. That's the first tournament I've ever covered, and hope I did well. Hope I get to do this a bit more. Congratulations to Aiden, of course, and big thank you to everyone who gave me permission to film this series. Hope to see you next time, guys. Thanks.